Well, the senator has a very, very tight schedule
As
today.
does everybody else I know at the start of school.
Okay, so we want to make sure that we honor his time and our guest's time. And I'd like to start out by thanking you for taking the time to make sure that Senator Bennet hears your voice. He's very interested and very concerned, and we appreciate that very much. But Dr. McCallan, who is the president of the Colorado Community College System, is here to join us, and I'd like to turn it over to you, Nancy, for a few words.
Sure. Thank you, Patty. As Patty said, I'm president of the Colorado Community College System, and I want to thank Senator Bennet for being here today. And I want to really thank you for listening to our students, to our colleges, to the parents, because as a parent, I have filled out the FAFSA, knowing I wasn't going to get anything but for other purposes, and what a mess. It's long overdue to have some reform here, to remove a roadblock that really hurts students and discourages them from going on to college. So thank you so much for what you're doing. I also want to thank Chancellor Pam Shockley, Salad okay, for being here today from the University of Colorado Springs, and I know you're going to say something in a little bit, but I want to thank everybody for being here today, and the students in particular who I met earlier. I can't wait to hear the stories. So I'm turning this back over to Patty, and you get going.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm sure you know this, but the Colorado Community College System serves more than 141,000 undergraduate students annually, and of which in the academic year 2013, Pueblo Community College served approximately 9,000 students. That's 6% of the total Colorado Community College students that are enrolled here at PCC. 88% of our students live in Pueblo, Fremont, La Plata, and Montezuma counties. And 39% of the PCC students are minorities. And accordingly, we are designated as a Hispanic serving institution. In FY12, Colorado Community College students received $409 million in state and federal financial aid. The PCC students received 10% of that allocation. So we're 6% of the total students in the community college system, and yet in our area, 10% of that allocation, or $39 million, came to Pueblo Community College students. And interestingly enough, while 74% of our students qualified for federal financial aid, only 53% of those students actually received.
What was that number again, 73%?
74 qualified, but 53 actually received it. And so the question of what happened to the remaining 21% is a very important issue to all of us here today. And we're so hopeful that with your leadership and your attention to this very important issue, that you'll help us be part of that solution. Because at the end of the day, for all of our institutions, access and affordability really is paramount to higher education attainment. So again, thank you very much. I want to turn this over to my colleague to have her speak to you for just a couple of minutes. Chancellor.
Thank you, President Jelly. And one of the things I want to say is that the southern part of the state, with the collaboration among the community colleges and four-year institutions, is a strong partnership that's beginning to move the results in southern Colorado forward. For the first time in over 50 years, we actually are increasing as a percentage of the overall graduates within the state of Colorado, and I'm excited about that. But for UCCS, where I hope, obviously I want all of you to come to UCCS, but I'm looking across our excellence.
You better take up her up on
I'm
it.
glad to get that.
After their associate's
Yes, ma'am, after their associate's student. 46% of everyone who graduated last year from UCCS, and that's over 2,000 students, were on Pell Grants. And 42% of them were the first in their family to go to school. Looking at simplifying FAFSA, making access easier, more transparent, and just clear and accessible is absolutely in the right direction. I have a favorite quote from Thomas Jefferson, who talked about years and years and years ago that one word is always better than two. Well, the FAFSA is not at 2 words, but if we can get it down to 2 questions, I will be more than satisfied. But there's another part of it, and it does impact students, and it affects affordability. The complexity of some of the applications that we have today, and federal financial aid application being front and center, also costs a lot to process internally to the institution, and therefore doesn't allow us to be as efficient. So in some ways, when Jefferson was saying 2 for 1, it's like 2 or 3 staff down to 1. And that doesn't mean staff don't have jobs. It simply means there are other more important things people can do. So this effort to care about access, affordability, but translate that into ease of access to the support students need, fundamentally important. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. So 10 pages and 84 questions later,
Right.
we have staffs in all of our institutions. As Chancellor Zalabak said, while we understand that the rules and regulations are very important, there is so much more we could be doing if this process were easier. And so I'd like to introduce you to Monica Hardwick, who is our Director of Financial Aid here at PCC, and I think she has some thoughts for you.
I do, and I'm just going to add on to some of the thoughts that you had. Just to add to some of the numbers that Patty had, about 43% of our students are first-generation students. So completing the FAFSA can be a pretty intimidating process for students and parents. There are a lot of questions that I think kind of scare people, especially the tax-related questions. A lot of students come in, or a lot of parents come in, and they're not sure of their tax filing status and things like that. So a lot of the questions are intimidating, but especially those related to income. Again, with 74% of our student population receiving financial aid, that's about 4,000 students. So in order for us to really serve our students and spend time with them, we would need about 25 full-time staff in our office, just to even sit down and spend an hour with each student to try and help them with the FAFSA.
The estimate nationwide on that, if you take the amount of time that you spend working on this, these guys spend working on this, the estimate is that it's the equivalent of 50,000 jobs
Yeah, sure.
in the United States.
I sure So, and with our other mandated costs, we're just, we don't have enough staff to be able to spend that much time with the students to help them through the process. So anything we can do to simplify it, we're very excited about. Another process, I think students fill out the FAFSA and they think they're good to go. A lot of times they get selected for verification. So that's another frustrating process. Their FAFSA comes in and we're required to collect additional documentation from them to verify the information they put on the FAFSA, and it just can be a frustrating process. Anytime there's conflicting information, we have to clarify it, and sometimes we're going back to the students 2 or 3 times to collect the right documentation to get their file verified. I would say in our office, our financial aid advisors spend at least half the time that they're here verifying files. So all this time we spend kind of working through these regulations that can be complicated and tricky, and some of them are absolutely necessary, but we could be spending additional time counseling students. We all know that loan default's a big issue. It's a big issue in this area of the state. So if some of our time was freed up, we could dedicate that time to counseling students and counseling them on the amounts that they're borrowing in student loans. I think that's about all I had.
I just wanted to add one thing about the work studies. At this institution anyway, we rely heavily on our work studies for the efficiencies of our operations. And when students' files are pulled for verification, then the operation stops. And those offices that need the work study help don't get it. And again, it just becomes, we're not as efficient as we could be. And we rely heavily. How many positions do we have here?
We have 186 work study positions, so if they're selected for verification and just kind of working through getting the documents in and processing their file, it can delay.
Yeah. So you've heard a little bit from the higher ed side of it, but Principal Bravo is here from South High School.
Thanks for coming.
The best high school in the state, and, right?
Are your kids back, are your students back yet?
They will be back on next on the 2nd of September.
Okay, and I feel bad to take you out of your building.
We're excited that our superintendent was able to
Oh,
join
great.
us.
Come on in, Madam Superintendent. Hi. How are you?
When I speak for all the high school principals, that our goal is to make sure that all of our students are college ready when they leave institutions. And, for a lot of our students, they are going to require financial aid to get to that next level. And it's, to be having this conversation that the process is being looked at to be made easier, for lack of a better term. Very exciting from our counseling department, for the counseling departments and all the other high schools. Our goal is to get all of our students, enrolled and gone through the FAFSA process, but it is a very daunting process. I think for some kids who maybe college for them, even for me, I remember walking onto the college campus and wow, college, and that's the reality for a lot of our students. So when the process to get there is very difficult, I think it's discouraging, it's overwhelming for our kids. We want to make sure that we'll make that better, easier. Again, very exciting. I know Jackie Romeo is a counselor in the district, very strong counselor, and I know that you've worked, very recently with this issue, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
So typically we work very closely with our community partners with PCC and CC to get financial aid experts in to work with our families. And a lot of times it's more difficult to explain to them because most of our families are first generation. So our students that are graduating, they're going to school for the first time, and their parents, some of them haven't even graduated. So they're looking at this from a beginner standpoint, and they have no experience, they don't understand the terminology or anything that goes along with the financial aid process. And so we can bring in as many experts as possible, and a lot of times it's really hard for them to even comprehend what the language of completing all of this, because it is really daunting for our first generation families. And when our parents don't quite understand it, then you pull in the deadlines. The deadlines for a lot of colleges is March. They compile packets up until April. So then that also holds back their financial aid packages. So, I mean, there are deadlines where if they're not getting their FAFSA completed in time, then they're held up from a financial aid standpoint in the colleges, and then we're trying to help them in the high schools also streamline the process and get them communicated with the right person at the different institutions. So it would be an easier process to get that communicated for families.
So we're trying to, I don't know, if you
This is Superintendent Joe.
we had, I first got interested in this when I was superintendent of Denver Public Schools, and we had a wonderful, very generous couple give us $50 million, $50 million for a scholarship foundation called the Denver Scholarship Foundation. And a lot of these institutions work closely with them.
And she's on our board.
She is,
Bernie
yeah.
did
That's
that.
right, Bernie's on your board. So, and a lot of the work had to do with, well, we can get kids into college, but then how are we going to make sure they get through and have the stamina to get through? And we thought about that and had some ideas about that. But at the high school level, what we finally did was create these future centers, is what we called them, in every single one of our schools, where people would come and they would basically walk you through the form, and you get your form filled out and you get it done. And it made a huge difference. I mean, a lot of the scholarship and a bunch of other stuff combined has meant that I'm told that 30% more people this year graduated and went to college from the Denver Public Schools than in 2005, which is material progress. But now we have the chance to get rid of this thing instead of, because everything that you were saying is so true, which is, and you were saying the time that's spent on this useless exercise, because that's what we learned from the committee hearings, was that if we only asked 2 questions instead of, having a forum that was that long. You guys probably don't even know it's that long because you did it online.
Yeah.
Right? But, versus that, which they said would give us 95% of the information that we need, means that you can then spend the time actually guiding students about where it is they might want to go. And it's another point that you made is also at the heart of our legislation, which I should say my partner in all this is a guy named Lamar Alexander. He used to be the Secretary of Education for George Bush, the father, and this is a totally bipartisan effort, Republicans and Democrats working together. The other thing, because we heard these folks and you, people like you, say that, look, it makes no sense for students to be getting their financial aid information after they've been admitted to college. So what we say is, all right, we're going to tell you in your junior year of high school, before you've applied to college, what your eligibility is going to be when you get to college the following year, so that we address the kind of planning issues you were talking about earlier. People can then think about applying in sort of the context of what they can afford, and I hope that's going to be of some help. We'll see.
Well, I know that you really want to hear from the students.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask Heather Stevens to start us out, and if you could talk to the senator about some of your experiences.
And if each of you could tell us, sort of where you are in school and what you're studying or what you hope to do after.
Of course. Well, my name is Heather Stevens. I have graduated from Pueblo Community College.
Congratulations.
Thank you. With an Associate's in Business Administration. I'm now taking classes here as well as at Adams State for the distance learning program for business and healthcare. Now, I came into college as a first-generation student, and the FAFSA was a very intimidating process for me to tackle along with my parents. If you were to ask my father, he could not tell you what FAFSA means. He did not want anything to do with it. I did start the FAFSA on my own, completed what I could, and then I approached my mom. I said, Mom, it's your turn. Need some parent information. And she kept putting it off because she knew she needed to set aside a significant amount of time to actually sit down, read it, understand it, know that she's putting the appropriate information in there. We did get it done. Unfortunately, with my parents' income, I didn't get anything, so it was kind of like, oh, we stressed for nothing. But my second year was a little different. My parents separated in 2013 and then divorced in 2014. And in between that time, they had filed a joint tax return because they were married the majority of 2013. So getting that information into FAFSA correctly, saying they're separated, yet they filed jointly, was so difficult. And you're trying to get it right because it's important. This is important information. So that was a little grueling. I'm also privileged enough to work here at Pueblo Community College in our enrollment center. And every day students come in and we're assisting them with the enrollment process. Here at PCC we have 5 easy steps to enrollment. That second step is FAFSA. And you have students who come in here so hopeful. They're turning that new page in their life and they're wanting to better themselves. And then they see that step and you see it in their eyes that they're just hardened by the process and they don't think they can do it. And one experience we had was a non-traditional student. She came in and she told us, I can't do it. This is too hard. It's not even worth it to go back to school. And we were like, no, no, no. We took her in the back and we had to sit her down and we walked her through the process. But for an instant there, she thought that she couldn't go back to school because it was going to be too difficult to even apply. And it's so hard to see that when students want to better themselves.
Great. Jamie?
I'm Jamie Thurston. I'm studying visual communications and mass communications. I have one more semester here, and I'm planning on transferring to a film school in New Mexico after I'm done here, so I'm excited about that. I was also a first-generation college student when I started off at college. My dad really didn't know what FAFSA was either, and he was a very difficult person to work with. He didn't want anything to do with filling out the FAFSA, so he didn't want to provide any of his information. So that made it very difficult for me to fill out the parent information part of the FAFSA. My mom did help me a little bit, as much as she could, but she's a very anxious person. And because it has to do with the federal government, we had to make sure everything was done correctly. So the first time I filled it out, it took us 4.5 hours to do it. We sat there and made sure everything was correct. So we weren't selected for verification. Unfortunately, we were selected, and that just made her very upset. And I almost didn't end up going to college because she said, if it was going to be that difficult, I don't want you to go to college. But I ended up going to college anyways. at least. Another problem I had was I have twin sisters. So when it comes to the question of how many people in your household would be attending college this year, I had to put 3, me and my twin sisters. And when I tried to go to the next page, it wouldn't let me. I had that warning, your household size went up significantly. And every time I said, yes, this was correct, it said, no, you can't do this. And after several minutes of trying to go to the next page, I couldn't do it, so I had to go and get help. And I went to seek out help, and I finally got it, but it got very frustrating, and I got selected for verification, and we had to fill out a whole bunch of forms. So in that instant, it was just, again, frustrating and everything. And I'm also a student employee here working in the enrollment center. And a great privilege we get to work with high schoolers, seniors. We get to work through the Go Zone sheet with the 5 easy steps. And when we come to the FAFSA step, and we have to say we need parent information, you kind of just see that light in their eyes go away, because when you say you need parent information, they're kind of like, oh, I can't get it right now. I don't think I can apply for college, and you kind of lose them. So making it kind of easier, I think, will kind of get them more hope of that they can go to college and stuff like that.
Thank you. Brittany?
Hello, I'm Brittany Martinez. I've attended PCC for 2 years. I have just started the nursing program. After I finish that, I plan to take advantage of the great program at UCCS, the dual enrollment, to achieve my bachelor's degree. So that's what I plan on doing. And through my 2 years here at PCC, I was able to receive financial aid. Though when I came right out of high school, and when I came in to do the enrollment process, do my financial aid, and sign up for classes, it was hard because they had asked who made your parents' tax return. And that's when I had to go home. I was ready to come in, conquer it, do it all in one day, and get ready for school. And to go home and ask my parents where are your tax returns, they don't know where they're at. They can't remember where they placed them. So that's a barrier there. And then you have to keep reminding your parents, I need those tax returns, I need those tax returns. And so when my parents finally found the tax returns, my dad has no idea how to fill out financial aid. He doesn't know how to do computers, technology, anything. So I'd ask my mother to help me because these are questions that I would have no idea how to answer. And so she helped me as much as she can, though there were questions that she didn't even understand the terminology. So to come in and get help, I mean, everybody's willing to help you, but it's hard when they don't know and your parents don't know the terminology either. And so the process is very hard and rigorous and time consuming. And also I got through the FAFSA application, and then I was chosen for verification. My 2 years here at PCC, I've been chosen for verification each year. And so with this sheet, it's a whole nother form, and then you also have to fill out another form to get a copy of your parents' tax transcripts to the FAFSA, and that can take anywhere up to 6 to 8 weeks. And so, like she had mentioned earlier, you don't know this until possibly right before you're going to start school, and with that long wait, you're held up on getting books, you're held up on getting materials, you're held up for your work study grant, and I mean, I like to get things ahead of time, so I'm not able to get my books ahead of time because you're waiting for the FAFSA to go through, and then you're also have that worry, am I going to get dropped from my classes because my financial aid hasn't processed yet. So you don't know what's happening about your classes or any of the materials. So that's very hard. So I think if we went from 108 questions to 2 questions, that would guarantee our students to just come in and do the financial aid. That would also probably raise our numbers in the enrollment process, raise our number in graduation rates, because students feel comfortable coming in to do the financial aid, and they're going to want to stay here and they're going to want to go to school if they're getting the funds for it.
I think all the data that I've seen backs up exactly what you just said. So H&R Block is the tax preparer across the country. They had a program where they helped students fill out FAFSA forms, and it increased the percentage of kids applying to college by 40%, I think the number was. Just that. You think about, and then you'd ask yourself, and the estimate, you were mentioning students that were eligible here but don't have federal aid, the estimate across the country is that's as many as 2 million students who are eligible for Pell Grants but aren't getting the Pell Grants, and all because of the complexity of this form. Now, it'd be one thing if the form, if every single one of these questions was essential to deciding whether or not you were eligible for financial aid, and this thing comes with, I mean, for people that are, it's your circumstances are so totally typical, and the instruction booklet alone is 67 pages for this thing. It's a ridiculous amount of time, and the answer to my own question is the questions are not relevant to. There's a section in here, I can't, Juliana, I don't know if you know where it is, but my favorite example of this is, the person that came up with the idea that this form was too complicated for people that were homeless to fill out. So what did they do? Instead of making it more simple, they added 3 questions in the middle of the form to determine whether or not you were eligible to be homeless in such a way that you'd be eligible for this simpler form. Only in Washington, D.C. would people decide that that's the way to make sense. But the most important, the simplification is important, the waste of time is important. But to me, the critical thing is that all the students that are not now having access to what you guys have managed to get to, notwithstanding how difficult it is just lost opportunity for the whole country and for our state.
Things are changing constantly throughout the year with your family income.
Right.
People are losing jobs or they're gaining jobs, and then how are you supposed to explain that in the form when it doesn't give you the option? You have to make sure it's correct, or they're not going to let you move on to the next page. And you can't explain that unless, and then with the simpler form, if you're just filling it out, they could go in and they can look through this and say, oh, okay, things have changed in their household. And that, I think that's
a good point. Dean?
Yes, my name is Dean Senna.
Dean, can I ask these guys one more thing?
You bet.
There's another aspect of this bill that we're not dwelling on today, but I just wanted to get your thoughts since you're also working to guide students. There was a time when people were able to use Pell Grants during the summertime, but we haven't been able to do that for a long time. This bill would allow students to be able to use Pell Grants, not just in fall and spring semester, but in the summer as well. And I just wonder whether that sounds appealing to you, or
Yes, that would be a great opportunity.
That would help me.
how would that help you?
Because during the summer, that's when I would take my prerequisites for the bachelor's degree, and without that Pell Grant, I wouldn't be able to.
Our enrollment, we noticed significant decreases for the last 3 years in our summer enrollment, and it is all due to the loss of the Pell Grant this summer. Because our students, many of them are working full-time, they need to go to college part-time, and they aren't on a traditional semester schedule.
And our job is to remove the barriers. It's very easy for students, if there's an excuse to drop out, they will drop out. And if they can't continue on, if there's not a smooth continuum, they leave in the spring and many of them never return. So having that opportunity to continue on in the summer is extremely important.
The so-called summer melt between your spring semester of your freshman year and your sophomore fall semester is huge. That's where you lose most of your students.
And if I can add to that, some of our programs require students to attend during the summer, and a lot of students will come back into our office having used their Pell Grants or their loan eligibility, and they don't have the funds available, so we try and work with them to find other aid to get them through the summer, but that would definitely be helpful.
Our allied health programs, I think, is a prime example. Our nurses and OT and PT, they have clinicals during the summer.
Sorry.
Dean is also a student.
I'm also a student, and obviously I didn't look traditional as the rest of them here, but I'm a veteran and a non-traditional student. I graduated from here last year with an Associate's in Applied Science and Electromechanical Technology. I've had the opportunity to teach some STEMS Academy courses this last summer, but when I first started out as a non-traditional student, I didn't come out of high school with the skills of navigating through a computer. I didn't even know how to turn a computer on. And naturally, my mother, at the time I'd lost my father, she was a couple of days older than me, and so she couldn't help me with navigating through those things. So it became real frustrating. Right after the start, I was overwhelmed with some of the questions. I had recently been injured for over a year, so they were going off my work income, which I didn't have any income for 14 months after that. I couldn't get any information from workers' comp, which was on delay because of various different things. So I couldn't answer a lot of these questions in here. And so I was gotten to the point where I don't even think it's worth it trying to make this attempt to go back to school at my age, you know, and trying to mingle with young, brighter people. And I can't even get to the first part of this.
Right.
You know, so it was really frustrating. Luckily, I got some help from Mr. Rincon here on campus, which his schedule was extremely packed. You know, just to getting in to see him and things of that nature caused some delays. They mentioned something about summer classes. I'm the kind of person that's, being at my age, some rust grows back real quick. So I went to summer classes so I can keep abreast of things. And luckily I was able to get the opportunity to find some financial aid that was left over, but I couldn't get through the process on my own, getting these grants and so on and so forth. It was just something that in itself was not traditional. Not too many people wanted to go to summer classes. I felt that it was a must.
Right.
So a shorter program here, something that a lot less paperwork for somebody that's a veteran and close to my age, wanting to come back to school. Things would be a lot more simpler, and they'd be more excited to come back. You know, they wouldn't already feel that, oh Jesus, I'm already in the hole already.
Right.
You know, I'm already struggling.
Right.
And I haven't gotten started.
What are you doing now?
Well, actually, right now, I'm a student here again. I'm working on some of the courses that are transferable for my bachelor's degree. I plan to pursue a degree in mechatronics and
In what is it?
mechatronics engineering. And what I'd like to do with that degree is I've had the opportunity to teach here, so I'm working with the CHAMP grant people to develop some coursework so I can transfer to CSUP and come back and continue teaching here at this facility. Everybody's so wonderful and helpful here, I just can't seem to want to go away.
Are you from Pueblo too?
I am a native from Pueblo.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So I know we have one other counselor here. Did you have anything that you'd like to add?
I just think it is a wonderful idea to try to streamline things and remove the barriers. Kind of when a student gets online and they fill out the COF, it's so quick and easy. That's even been modified from years ago. And so you can see that they move through that system real easily. And I think if the questions in the 102 aren't necessary, then they don't need to be asked. So I think it's good.
Dr. Jones?
Sure.
Did you
Well,
have-
I would just like, I'm new to Colorado.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Where did you come from?
Florida, Fort Myers. And ironically, I served as the chief academic officer there, and last year I mentored a senior. And it was a program that we were doing locally to try to help first-generation students navigate the system, if you will, and to complete the forms and go for their financial aid. And so I can tell you firsthand, it was daunting to even serve as a mentor to try to help be that advocate for the student to complete the process. I applaud your efforts and I appreciate you doing this. And I wholeheartely support doing it earlier than the senior year, because they really, a student going into their senior year really needs to already have the financial aspects of what they're planning to do already established so that, you know, they can determine their options. Waiting that late into the senior year is just...
Well, one of the things we also hope will happen when we get this done is that the information will be simple, as we said, but also very predictable over a period of time, so that even middle school students can start to understand, this is, if I work hard and I do what I'm supposed to do, here's the aid that's going to be available to me at the end, which we've seen in Denver anyway has made another big difference with the Denver Scholarship.
See, that would be fabulous, because we could work with our students and be able to coach and counsel them into the programs. Our counselors are very, very dedicated, very hardworking, but they only have so many hours in the day to reach out to every single student. So if we could get mentors and start the process much, much earlier, I think that would be a huge benefit to our students.
Would it be tied to the ICAP at all?
I don't know.
That's
Would it?
the individual
career
career and
academic
academic
plan.
plan from high school into college.
I don't know the answer, probably not. But
I mean, it might be a good segue to link the two. When you're talking about a middle level and the students develop their ICAP, what they're going to do career and academically for the rest, for that 13th year.
I don't think we've gotten that far yet.
Okay.
But I've made a note.
And not every state has an ICAP.
Right.
No, yeah.
Again,
So-
it's cost.
I mean, we know that finances are the biggest barrier, I think, for students to go to school. And if they don't know what they're entitled to through the Pell Grant or loans, it's so easy just to turn around and say, it's too hard and I'm going.
No, and I think that's also key for families. I spend every other year, I go into middle schools around the southern part of the state and meet at night with parents and family members. And in middle schools, that not knowing how they can possibly send people to school, that lack of possibility thinking, I think then begins to send the messages from the middle school on. So, well, you know that I'm in favor of this.
Well,
I mean,
well,
that's
the idea came from you guys, so.
But this is a real game changer that we haven't had in a long time.
The more access that people get,
Yeah.
the more opportunity there will be for, the next four students who are sitting here to say, I'm not actually the first person in my family to go to college. There was somebody that went before me, and I was able to see how they went through the process and the courses they had to take, from middle school through college, what financial aid they were able to find and how to work, study, and other kinds of things, so that people can say, my older brother, my older sister was there before me, so for me it wasn't as hard.
That's right.
as it was.
Well, Senator Bennet, all of us here
I'm grateful.
are just so appreciative of your advocacy and your willingness to listen to what the challenges are. And we appreciate the fact that you share our passion for higher education. We're going to wrap up now because we're going to give you a few minutes to talk to the press.
Oh.
But again, on behalf of all of us, thank you
Maybe you
so
guys
much.
should talk to the press. You do a much better job. Thank you, Patty.
Yeah,
Thanks
you
for
bet.
having us here. And
Well,
all of
thank
you,
you
thanks
for
for
your
taking
leadership.
some time out. And I know the school year is starting. I know what that feels like. So thanks for taking some time out. And good luck with everything. It's great. It's great to hear. Your stories are inspiring to me. I mean, because nothing that's worth doing doesn't come with a struggle, but there are enough struggles out there already that we don't need unnecessary struggles. So when I get to go back, I made a bunch of notes. It helps me to be able to go to the floor of the Senate and say, I heard from this person, I heard from this person. For heaven's sake, why can't we at least get this done in Washington, D.C.? So, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.